Thanks for joining us on this edition of National Focus. I'm Jarna Hector. Coming up, Dominica's Prime Minister talks housing, the Ministry of Education prepares for the Excellence in Education Awards, and the Dominica Football Association is making strides for Dominica's football development. Stay tuned for details of these and other stories after this.
A lot of bathtubs are blamed for bruises. Some staircases are accused of being responsible for broken bones. Doors are occasionally viewed suspiciously as causing lesions. A high percentage of tables are accused of producing bleeding or trauma. Violence against women is a crime, and it's everyone's responsibility. It's inexcusable. If you're a victim or witness of physical or psychological violence or abuse, seek help and denounce the perpetrator.
Thanks for staying with us. Dominica's Honorable Finance Minister, Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerrit, is proud of his government's Housing Revolution program. Government Housing Revolution comprises several components that all result in quality housing for every person. For those who can't afford to finance loans for their homes, conditions are in place to make the process and repayment easier than before. Honorable Skerrit has highlighted his government's work to make affordable and adequate housing easily available for every single Dominican, including public officers.
There were several public officers, civil servants, who could not go to the banks to get a loan to build a home, because the interest rates were too high and the monthly payments were beyond their salaries. What did we do? We went out and we spoke to the government and the president of Venezuela. And I told the president of Venezuela of the challenge which I have in Dominica with regards to housing. And he gave us a grant of $10 million to launch the housing revolution. And we put in monies at the government housing loan board to lend to public officers at 4%. The lowest interest rate this country had ever seen and experienced. And I did challenge anybody in Dominica to tell me where in the Caribbean you can get lower than 4% interest rates for mortgages for public officers.
For the benefit of public officers, Government Housing Loans Board has undergone a bit of reform as well.
When we put this money into the Government Housing Loan Board, there were several public officers who could not contract the loans because they were not appointed. They were in non-established positions. And the law at the time would not allow the Government Housing Loan Board to lend money to them. The cabinet and the party discussed this particular challenge. And we decided we will go to the Parliament of Dominica to amend the Government Housing Loan Board Act to allow for non-established public officers to contract loans and build their homes. And several public officers today have a home because of this government, because of the Dominica Labour Party.
In its massive housing revolution, the DLP government has not left out non-civil servants. Affordable loan terms have been negotiated. 5% and 4% interest rates are available at the Aid Bank thanks to the Roosevelt Skerrit government. In addition to those unique loan options, government has gone further to consider the repayment challenges that face some borrowers.
We also recognize when we discuss within the government, within the cabinet, that people who build homes are normally renting. Rent in some cases is very high in Dominica. And from the time you sign this mortgage with the banks, you have to start paying the interest right away. And it becomes difficult for families to be able to pay the interest at the bank and still pay their rent at the same time. And in the loan agreement with the Government Housing Loan Board and the Aid Bank, we allowed for a 6 months grace period. A 6 months grace period where you have to pay nothing back to the Aid Bank or nothing back to the Government Housing Loan Board, because we felt An average sized house would take about 6 months to build. So building a home for Dominicans became a joy for them because they didn't have this added burden of having to pay their rent and to pay the interest payments.
Through government's unique housing program, Dominica has seen the largest housing improvement drive in its history. All over the island, people from every walk of life who could never have managed adequate housing for their families are now living more comfortably and can focus on making their own contributions to nation building. While these people shower thanks on those who made it possible, the Labour Party government is also thankful to diplomatic partners who shared the vision of the housing revolution.
I want to particularly recognize the special contribution to the housing revolution by both the government of Venezuela and the government of China. Two exceptional friends of Dominica who have assisted us in addressing the housing situation in Dominica. And this country will always be grateful to the Chinese and to the Venezuelan people.
The Honourable Parliamentary Representative for the Monjon and Rivière-Siri constituency, Ivor Stevenson, says government's continued investment in water supply projects is having a significant impact on the lives of the country's people. Honourable Stevenson was addressing the House of Parliament during the debate on the 2014 supplementary appropriations. The MP used this as evidence of a government working to improve the lives of its people.
I say so, Mr. Speaker, when we reflect on the improvements that have been done in WA1 by the construction of storage facilities, the construction of a filtration system, the construction of storage facilities in Mount Bruce with capacities of 500,000 gallons, in Antrim, a glass-fused tank with a capacity of 250,000 gallons, and several other storage tanks, Mr. Speaker, within that WA1 supply system. Mr. Speaker, the residents within these areas can surely say that they now have improved water quality within these respective areas.
According to the Honourable Parliamentary Representative, there is deeper meaning to the projects than simply building concrete facilities.
It's about making life for the people of these areas much better. And these systems are not just impacting positively on lives, but we can even go specifically, Mr. Speaker, and talk about the health of those people. For example, we can recall those days and those years, Mr. Speaker, when we had very turbid water being supplied sometimes by WA1. We can recall sometimes, Mr. Speaker, when there were shortages of water in ROSEAU as a result of, as some persons would have complained, the existence of the tourist boats, and all the other times, Mr. Speaker, when we experience inconveniences in the water supply. Today, there are no complaints. Everyone is satisfied because they have seen the significant improvement that has been undertaken in these water systems.
Honourable Stevenson made reference to the impact of these projects on his constituency.
In Grand Fond, where we have seen the construction of a completely new system with facilities such as an intake, facilities such as a storage tank, and a new improved supply line, distribution line to the village. And that, Mr. Speaker, is about development. That is about making life comfortable for people. It's not about just talking about things that just cannot happen. We hear too many times pronouncements are being made by the people in the opposition with respect to what they plan to do. But nobody tells you exactly where they're going to get the sources of funding from. And, Mr. Speaker, we'll continue to see the continued improvement of water systems, not only in my constituency, but also in other parts of this country.
A total of $2,181,037.85 was appropriated for the West Coast Water Supply Project and the Third Water Supply Project, according to the 2014 Supplementary Appropriation Act. With an outbreak of viruses plaguing the globe, particularly that of chikungunya, which afflicted the country over the past few months, Honorable Parliamentary Representative for the ROSEAU Valley constituency, Dr. Colin McIntyre, saw the need for government's 2014-2015 budget move to reduce the import duties on adult disposable diapers. Addressing the House of Parliament during the debate on the 2014 supplementary appropriations, Honorable McIntyre explained that these viruses are not restricted to particular age groups and have an even deadlier impact on the elderly.
There's what you call once a man, twice a child. And I've mentioned that the second child is not a nice child at all. It's a deadly child. I'm actually scared of it, but it's reality. And what I see happening to some of our older folks, and what we have done to make their life easier, much easier for them, in terms of disposable diapers, when we introduced that last time, the chikungunya effect, in terms of some of our elderly folks, they have to use it. The opposition saw it fit to call it a Pampers budget. Gentlemen, ladies, we have to be very careful with statements like that. We'll get there one day.
The parliamentary representative shared his own personal run-in with the chikungunya virus.
This one is very, very devastating. And chikungunya is similar to, not similar, but close to dengue, because we have been plagued with dengue on a few occasions in the past, and every year we'll always have cases of dengue. But to have chikungunya on your front step right now, on your plate, it's not a joke at all. My aunt is 80-something years old, struggled, knees were getting old, tired, working still at that age, strong lady, and she was struck with that. And so I have first-hand experience of that. And if you allow me, Madam Speaker, I'll relate to the chikungunya in terms of what happens after. She got struck by chikungunya, and it has put her lung flat. She's now lame, and she got a stroke on it. So she's done completely.
During the budget address in July, the Honorable Finance Minister Roosevelt Skerrit announced government's plan to remove the import duty on adult disposable diapers. In this small way, Honorable McIntyre believes that government is assisting the elderly who have become inconvenienced by viruses such as chikungunya. The MP relayed a story to the House of one grateful senior citizen.
I visited a lady. She's 93 years old. I called her name in the last budget presentation where I mentioned her name as Mamari, my French, in Fokani. And I went to visit her 2 days ago. My little nickname, they call me Kolo. Kolo. And she said to me, Kolo, Baisa mauvais. She said, Colin, this thing is very bad. I say, so what you talking about? She said to me, Baisa yokaki chikungunya. That thing they call chikungunya. And she said to me, all my body is hurting me. She's 93. And she'll be 93 in December. But I'm praying that with her strength, she will survive. And she will survive. And she said, Moka puede puzo tous les jours. I'm praying for you all every day. And when you hear a 93-year-old lady afflicted by this chikungunya telling you these things, you must understand the importance, and this government here seeing the importance of putting money in place for things like that.
According to the 2014 Supplementary Appropriation Act, a total of $75,197.12 was spent by the Dominica Labour Party administration for professional and consultancy services to combat chikungunya. In more news, the Ministry of Education and Human Resource Development will again recognize superior performance at the Excellence in Education Awards tomorrow, October 1st. The Excellence in Education Awards, held every 2 years, is designed to celebrate and publicly acknowledge the achievements of outstanding principals, teachers, and schools in Dominica. Most outstanding principals and teachers will be awarded at both primary and secondary schools. Awards will also be presented to schools in the following categories: agriculture, visual and performing arts, culture, sports, and innovation. Education officers and retired educators in September assessed projects and programs to determine winning schools in the various categories. His Excellency, the President Charles Savre and Mrs. Savre, the Honorable Prime Minister of Dominica, government ministers, members of the Diplomatic Corps, and senior government officials will attend the function. Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerrit and the Honorable Education Minister Peter Seja will address the ceremony. The National Bank of Dominica Limited is the sponsor of the Excellence in Education Awards. In more news, FIFA Development Officer for the Southeastern Caribbean region, Howard McIntosh, is pleased with the progress of the Goal 2 project going on at Stock Farm. The FIFA representative is on island to discuss the development of football and the second phase of that technical center. Addressing a press conference on Monday at the Football House in Bath Estate, he relayed his satisfaction with the strides that the Dominica Football Association is making in developing the sport on the island.
I'm very happy with the MA, and FIFA is very happy with what is happening in Dominica and with Dominica football. Why? You might ask immediately, why are we happy? We're happy to see a stable member association in the DFA. We're happy to see a united executive. We're happy to see a level of planning taking place. We're happy to see, yesterday, for example, I went out along with the president and members of the executive committee out to Portsmouth. The day before we were in Grand Bay and to watch the games. And it's always a pleasurable sight when you go to football in a country and you see members of the executive there. So it was good to see, and Gerard George, Philip White, and the General Secretary, the President, the First Vice President, and a number of other executives were all there. So that's always very good to see.
He says he is pleasantly surprised.
I must indicate immediately that I'm also very pleasantly surprised with what's happening with the goal project. As Gerard mentioned earlier, we had an extensive on-site meeting yesterday. And the purpose of that was to not only view the site, but discuss the possibilities. Of course, a number of members were there, including the contractor and other members of the executive.
The FIFA Development Officer further highlighted his satisfaction with the extensive collaboration between the stakeholders in the sport.
Your presence here this morning says that there's a good relationship with the media, right, Carlisle? The president has reported, and it seems evidence to me, the last time I was here we had a meeting with the Minister of Sport, and the relationship with the government. Football cannot develop in any country without a proper collaboration between the Football Association, the government, sponsors, that's the private sector, and the media. Cannot. Because we need the media to work hand in hand with us in relation to doing that. So we're very, very, very happy to see that.
He added that FIFA is committed to assisting the Dominica Football Association. McIntosh indicated that despite minor challenges, the project is expected to be in the final stage of completion by December 2014. Honorable Minister for Culture, Youth and Sports, Justina Charles, wants nationals to develop a greater sense of pride in their country. The minister made the call as she addressed the official opening of the 2014 independence celebrations last Friday. Honorable Charles called for greater participation in the activities planned to commemorate Dominica's 36th anniversary of independence.
Let us all get involved in one way or another. Participate in the various events, decorate your offices and business places, wear your Creole dress, prepare the best of local foods, showcase our Creole culture, parler Creole, be proud of your heritage and identity.
Chairman of the Independence Committee, Raymond Lawrence, says quite a lot of activities have been planned for this year's independence season, which officially ends on November 4th.
Activities continue next weekend with the athletic events and more cultural semi-finals. And the following week will be History Week with a special focus on the Kalinago heritage. Cultural finals will be held in Londonderry, Grand Bay, and Portsmouth. We also have a secondary school's Creole choral speech competition, Market Days with a Difference in Marigot, ROSEAU, and Portsmouth, Heritage Day in Capuchin, Miss Wapduyet, Madame Wapduyet, and Tea Matador pageants, and other major events like the World Creole Music Festival, Creole in the Park, and the Cadence Lipso competition. In addition, there's the National Youth Rally, Flag Day, Fête La Pointe, Waterfest, Creole in the North, National Day Parade, National Cultural Gala, and the National Day of Community Service.
And a delegation from the OECS is part of this year's Trinidad and Tobago Film Festival. Dominican Sobers Esprit is the Business Development Officer at the Creative Industry Sector of the OECS Competitive Business Unit. He led a 4-member delegation to the festival over the weekend. Esprit says this is an important part of the strategy to expose the industry, while at the same time seek new opportunities for doing business and for networking with important players in the film industry. The delegation was made up of well-known Antigua and Barbuda filmmaker Howard Allen, Jessica Canham of a Dominica media company, Link International Productions, and broadcaster and documentary maker Chester Cornell from St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Their participation at the festival was made possible under the 10th European Development Fund. And that's the English news. McPherson St. Luce is next with the Creole highlights.
Allô tout le monde, bienvenue à cette nouvelle en créole. Nous, moi, c'est McPherson St. Luce. Premièrement, travail qui prend place bien formidable à un point en Wharton Waven. Membre parlement Honorable Dr. John Colin McIntyre visité projet la semaine passée.
Nous sortis à Vallée, ça c'est Wharton Waven. Avec nous, un gros projet là, ça nous a fait en bateau, en bridge. Avec ça, nous avons fait, nous avons servi comme tu dis, $24, ça c'est $24,000. Nous avons rangé un petit pont là. Un petit pont, c'est un bord qui sert à jour là, c'est estate là, estate road, tous ces gens là qui étaient là à bataille, à travailler. Nous avons des chimères, comme tu dis, des chimères pour estate. Mais le gouvernement, les partis, ça nous a dit, nous avons besoin de lever ces places là. Bon petit pont pour moun passer ou ça pour voiture passer on petit pont là yon voiture ça passer c'est bail ça pas bon so nous catcher tous ces jeunes moun là à Wharton Waven actuellement nous ni moun qui travaille à la chimère comme c'est des ça à bas NEP National Employment Program yo qui travaille pour nettoyer toute chimère nous ni l'autre gang qui travaille l'autre qui nettoyer toute chimère avec nous ni c'est deux gangs nous qui travaille là.
À la nouvelle, Bureau Gender Dominica a organisé un workshop qui a targeté femmes en affaires leadership. Parole là sur le directeur gender, Rosie Brown.
Women in leadership workshop, especially women in the highest decision-making level. Là, nous avons collaboré avec CIWIL, c'est une agency en Caribbean, là, c'est Caribbean Institute for Women in Leadership. Yoke vini, yoke ici, Dominique, car ni deux journées workshop ça là, avec femmes qui ont engagé en toute manière en leadership et femmes qui ont gardé pour eux, pour manière pour eux ça, représenter constituency ou country et qui pour ça représenter à un level qui plus haut pour yo ça taper instruction pour aider yo pour faire un meilleur travail, meilleur job en activité ça là et aussi moun femme qui en village council et femme qui a gardé pour d'autres institutions pour ça qu'il ait fait une plus importante contribution à un level leadership. C'est ces moun ça là nous qui target. So workshop là qui a pris en place demain samedi là c'est mercredi le 1er octobre et il a continué pour 2e en octobre et il a pris en place à Fortune Hotel.
En la nouvelle, Banque nationale Dominique vini à bord pour supporter Festival Creole Mondial l'année 2014. Officier banque là, Susan Piper, fait présentation $25,000 pendant conférence média jeudi. Tropical Shipping aussi à bord pour supporter Festival là. Selon officier DFC Mav Williams, c'était un plaisir pour taper ses assistances à cela.
Aujourd'hui là, nous tenons National Bank Dominique. Ils fait une présentation pour $25,000 pour le festival là. et yo présenté comme banque officielle là pour festival là. C'est un plaisir pour nous madame Susan Piper là bon matin là qui a parlé contre comment il est tellement content pour le festival là dans là ça. Nous aussi tenons Tamara Lo, c'est un manager Tropical Shipping. Il y a 18 années nous avons présenté le festival là et il y a 18 années qui moi ça dit que Tropical Shipping toujours et puis nous pour présenter le festival là ben nous avons dit un grand merci.
Et puis finalement, le ministère de l'Éducation qui tient Ceremony Excellence Award à le 1er octobre l'année 2014. Banque nationale Dominica sponsor avant Masala. Excellence in Education Award, qui tient tous les années pour célébrer, ça c'est qui tient tous les 2 années pour célébrer et pour recogniser achievement bon mettre l'école, teacher et puis l'école en Dominique. Mettre l'école et puis teacher qui recevait l'année pour plus meilleur mettre l'école primaire et puis secondaire, meilleur teacher l'école primaire et puis secondaire et puis aspiring teacher l'école primaire et puis secondaire. Il y a aussi présenté award pour l'école en affaires agriculture, culture, visual arts, sport et puis innovation. Le ministère de l'Éducation conduit un survey pour déterminer les gens qui méritent recognition. Président His Excellency Charles Savin et Madame Savin, Premier ministre Honorable Roosevelt Skerritt, ministère de l'Éducation Honorable Peter Saint-Jean, ministère gouvernement, diplomatique corps et puis d'autres officiers gouvernement qui attendaient cérémonial. Premier ministre Honorable Roosevelt Skerritt et ministère de l'Éducation Honorable Peter Saint-Jean qui délivrent l'adresse en cérémonie là. Messieurs, mesdames, ça c'est tout pour nouvelle en créole pour à présent. Non, moi c'est McPherson Luce. Au revoir.
Learn some surprising uses of coconut oil next.
DOASCO recognizes that clean water is vital to healthy living. Therefore, it spares no effort in providing a clean, safe, and reliable system. Help keep our rivers safe and clean. Do not cut trees along the river banks and do not pollute with garbage, human or animal feces, and chemicals. Think water, think life.
We're very lucky to be living on a tropical island where this miracle oil is abundant. The uses of coconut oil are innumerable. Used in beauty and grooming, home and lifestyle, for your pets, in your food and drink, for health and wellness, and so many other ways. Use it with baking soda to brighten your skin, to condition wood, to condition your pet's fur, or as salad dressing. There are literally hundreds of uses. Try researching a few. And that's all for this edition of National Focus. We always welcome your suggestions and comments. Drop us an email at gis@dominica.gov.dm or visit our website news.gov.dm. Like our Facebook page, facebook.com/GISNewsDominica. You can also catch up on past National Focus newscasts on our GIS Dominica YouTube channel. From all of us here on the GIS News Production team, I'm Jarna Hector. Thank you for watching.